It is 86 degrees in this house and I'm roasting. But fortunately, I have a pretty good selection of antique fans to keep the place relatively cool. For example, this 1949 General Electric Vortelex is the one that I use to keep the kitchen and living room pretty cooled off. And occasionally I'll go out and I'll look for more fans to use in different places to help, you know, keep the air moving. And I just stumbled upon this one today. This is a, I don't know exactly what year this fan was made, but this is like a 1960s. This is actually a, what makes this one? Superior Electric. And this is an American-made fan, of course. This one struck me as a little odd. It has plastic blades, and it's a classic metal fan. I thought that was a very nice... And not only are they plastic, but they're translucent blue, which is very interesting. And I noticed something, that on camera, the blades show up as a different color than they actually are in person. It's strange. Now this fan, it runs. I made the shopkeeper plug it in for me. It's not the best quality fan. I've seen better. This is right around the time things started going downhill in terms of the quality of these fans, but it does run, and let's turn it on. Put it on high. It's a little sluggish. Just a little sluggish on startup, but it sounds good and tight. Whoa, something just flew off the blades and hit me in the face. Like a piece of dust or something. So I'm not going to run it too much. We're not going to run it at all, in fact. We've got to give this fan some love. It needs oil badly. So let's get this thing apart. And we're going to clean it up a little bit. I bought this fan because it was in such good condition. It has the head badge still intact. It's a beautiful, beautiful fan. If anyone knows how old this thing is, I'd love to hear some insight on that. I don't know much about Superior Electric products, so, you know, that'll be interesting. Getting this shroud off is going to be tricky, though. So you got a hook here, here, here. So 4 hooks. Usually if you, there we go, press down. Here we go. Oh, it just comes right off. Oh, that's pretty handy. I'm going to clean the blades up a little bit. But unlike some of you guys, I don't consider myself to be a fan collector. I actually buy them because I use them. This is going to be used in my office at work. Not here, but at work. You know, I have a couple of vintage fans in there now. I've got an old Fasco box fan. You'll see it on my channel if you look. Okay, let's try some better tools. Okay, and there we go. So remind me to throw away those Allen wrenches. No damn good. Looks like this blade's never been off. I can tell because there's just one divot on the shaft where that had been hooked into. So check this out, though. This is a pretty good quality blade set. You've got a nice bronze hub here molded into the blades. That's some quality right there. So even though I believe this was a fairly inexpensive fan back in its day, it is pretty well made. Because I'm too lazy to get wrenches. You don't know where I've been. Don't judge me. I have a nice set of wrenches. Just 20 feet from where I'm standing, but... screw that. Okay, so let's get this off. Clean that up. Clean this motor house. This is gonna look nice when it's done. It really will, I promise. We're gonna remove there's one screw in the back of the motor housing. We're gonna take that off. I love the paint on this. It's in pretty good shape. It really is. It's very clean, very together, very there, you know. Happened. try to remove. You can tell this fan was the beginning of the end of the infinite lifespan electric fans that we got used to back at that point in time, because they did not want you disassembling this fan. So to separate the motor, to remove the motor housing, you have to remove the oscillator, but they peened it over right here, so you can't really do that. They really didn't want this thing coming apart. There are no oil ports of any kind on this fan, so we might have to do some improvisation here. A lot of this construction is riveted together, and it's just really chintzy for an antique like this. But they did not, absolutely did not want this fan being serviced. What can we do? What can we do? Well, I mean, really, it's not in that bad condition. What I will do is I will gain access where I can and put a few drops of oil on. I mean, I can't get the motor apart without being destructive in a way, but we'll get there. Okay, normally I would probably mess with this a little more, but I'm not going to because I don't think I need to. Look at how clean this motor is inside. I've done nothing to this yet. Everything looks pretty clean in there, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to re-soak the oil pad with fresh 3-in-1 motor oil and call it a day. If there was a problem with this fan, I could easily pop it apart, you know, but right now I just don't think that is worth doing. I think it's just fine the way it is. So I'm just putting a few drops of oil carefully on the the oil pad, which is what provides the permanent lubrication these bronze bearings so sorely need. And that's what I'm doing to it. So we'll let that soak a little bit. Now for the rear, they really didn't want this fan being taken apart, which is pretty, oh wow, check this out. I wasn't kidding. Take a look at the gearbox in the back. Now this is a very simple gearbox. It doesn't have any internal clutching for the oscillator, so very little maintenance needed, but check it out. It is riveted shut. So even to get that off, to re-grease everything in the back of it would be monumentally, I mean, it can be done, anything can be fixed, but the amount of effort that it would take to re-secure that cover would require drilling and tapping for screws, and I'm not doing that. Not for a fan like this, but again, it's in really good shape, and I think I can get away with just a little bit of a re-lube. So that is what I'm going to do. There are no oil ports on this fan at all. Even some of the cheapest fans have oil ports, but at least the vintage ones. This one, not so much. So I've got some WD-40 in this steel wool here, and I'm just going to lightly buff it away and clean this up. This is a nice grill. Very, very clean chrome. There we go. That's pretty much all you need to do. This one's in really good shape. So clean that up. We're going to just remount it to the fan motor. Not even bent. And this fan is definitely OSHA compliant. You can't even stick your finger through the grates. Is it directional? No. Yes, it is. So you want this exposed weld on the bottom. In fact, you want all of these towards the bottom. That way they're less visible. Aside from its almost non-serviceable motor, I really like this fan for what it is. It's a beautiful appliance. It's going to look great on my desk, which is going to be in our newly renovated office. Now, the color scheme that we chose is a gray and blue color scheme, almost like a police station. That's what it reminds me of. And I'm really liking that. Ooh. Look at how they've mounted the the device that makes the head stationary, or allows it to pivot and everything. It's just so, oh my god. So look at this. This is incredibly bad. So this is threaded, right? This piece of metal is threaded. It's riveted to the side of the pedestal. And when you tighten this bolt down, it pulls away from the pedestal. And you look at the material they used, and it's just cast pot metal is all it is, and it's riveted into the base. That right there is just shoddy engineering. That, I've never seen anything so bad. I mean, it works, but it wouldn't. I mean, if you really tighten this down to any real amount, it will simply shear off. And I just cannot believe. I just cannot believe we made something like this in the United States, where they allegedly. You know, it's funny how they redeemed themselves in the engineering department in some areas, but oh my God! I mean, whoever dreamt up of that particular neck lock design is just, well, probably dead by now, but still, I just can't believe just how poorly engineered that is. I mean, that is just poor engineering at even the most basic level. I'm in shock. The only reason that this fan has survived is because it wasn't used. That's really it. The only reason that this fan is still around for us to play with and judge is because whoever owned it probably left it in an attic and forgot they owned it. I find that to be incredibly... I've never seen such poor engineering. Even from a cheap fan from Walmart, I don't quite know what to say about that. I just don't. I mean, we're talking basic stuff here. Now, I love these blades. This is a very nice color. It looks better in person. I'm telling you right now, I'm looking at it on the camera screen, and it's just, the color just doesn't show up on this camera. I don't know why that is, but this is like the bluest blue I've ever seen. All right, I'm being a little facetious, but it's beautiful. Just a beautiful blade set. These blue blade sets were often found on imported fans from Japan, or I think mostly Japan. The old Sanyos, and some of the older Galaxies, and some of the American ones too. Just a beautiful, beautiful blue. No scratches, really. No nicks, no cracks. What more could you ask for? A better fan to bolt it to, maybe? I guess. But yeah, this is probably one of the earliest examples of a plastic bladed fan that I've ever come across. Just a shame that the rest of it is such crap. But it works. That it works. That is I guess part of the hassle. But all right. Put the blades back on. Okay, here we go. Make sure we get that all lined up. Make sure that it clears. Clear prop! Okay. That spins nicely. It really does. For a complete utter piece of crap, it spins very nicely. You know, this is almost like the, about a couple years ago, I bought one of the infamous Bursted Zero electric fans. Bursted was basically the epitome of poorly made in America appliances. I mean, they were very cheaply made, but they were also very cheap to buy. And they were mostly sold through drugstores. And if you needed, a toaster, or you needed a hot plate or something, and you didn't have a lot of money to spend, you could buy one from Bursted, which was later absorbed into McGraw Edison, I believe. And their fans were very poorly made. So I found myself a nice example of a Zero, which is just a brand name that Bursted had used for their fans. In beautiful condition, really nice. I just cleaned it up and painted a few pieces to make it look new again. I got it running. I lubricated it, put it on my desk, and within a couple of weeks, the bearings were going straight to hell. So let's plug it in now that we have the blades on, cleaned up. Oh, wow. Let me shut off the Vortex and really get a good listen to this thing. So it's not perfectly balanced. I think we have a little bit of a balancing issue, but that was molded into the blades, whatever that is. Something's loose. Oh, it's my toaster. Listen to that. Sounds pretty good. I don't hear any bearing noise. Sounds pretty clean. So when I checked this out at the store, when I was looking to buy it, I had the clerk plug it in for me, and she was more than happy to. And it was very slow. It would not spin. It was just like taking forever to get up to speed. And I said, listen, because they were asking $50 for it, which to me was way too much, even in the condition it's in, and its perceived rarity. So I asked the clerk, okay, what's the lowest you'll go on this thing? Because I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to give you $50. I mean, I was nice about it, but I'm like, and I said, here's why. Because once I get this fan apart and I start cleaning the bearings, there's a very high possibility that they could be bad. Now, when you get an antique fan like this and it's tight and it doesn't really want to spin, there's a good possibility that it was because of neglect and it hadn't been regularly oiled or even serviced. So sometimes when you get that, like with that Zero fan that I had, and you start cleaning things up and you get things moving again, that's when you discover that the front bearing is bad. And the front bearings go bad on these if they're neglected, because usually the front bearing is what's holding all the load. It's what's supporting the blades, and that's what's getting all the abuse. The rears usually last a little while because they're generally bathed in grease, and the oil can leach into the bearings from the back because just the nature of the beast with an oscillating fan. Not only that, but that rear bearing is not supporting a whole hell of a lot. So, anyway, I said, listen, if I find out that these bearings are bad, or the front bearing, you know, it's really not worth fixing, and I just paid $50 for a fan that needs bearing work. And she said, okay, well, let me talk to my boss. And she did. And she says, I tell you what I'll do. I'll sell it to you for $40. And I said, how about $35? She said, how about $40? I said, okay, I'll chance it for $40. So I walked out with a fan that I kind of don't need, but I like it, and I'm happy. Now, the fan is probably not worth $40, but if I were to buy this fan online, I'd be paying a lot more than that when you factor in shipping and handling. So right now what I'm doing off camera here is I'm cleaning up the outer cage with my steel wool and WD, and it's looking nice, really nice. I'm gonna clean that up. Oh yeah, look at that. But there's no rust on this fan, at least where it matters. There's a little bit of a rust spot on the base, but I'm not really worried about that. Again, this is going to go on my desk at work. I don't really care. Now, again, you can see that, look, this is not high-quality construction. They didn't even cut these loops to size. They just tacked them where they landed. This is a hallmark of just get-it-done construction. They don't even line up. I mean, this thing is so cheaply built. But it looks cool, and it's nice, and it's old, and it, you know, it'll get comments, and people will like it and appreciate it for what it is. And it still works. So this is the Handy Breeze that I picked up a while back, and it's in mint condition. All I did was I repainted the blades. I took the blades off and gave them a nice coat of paint. This one clearly is not OSHA compliant. You can stick your entire head in those blades, but if you're a child or a cat, your head would pretty much get chopped off. But, you know, it's a nice appliance. I wouldn't use it. It doesn't even have a power switch. But again, it's another example of a cheaply made fan. If you want a good quality antique fan, stick with the GEs like this Vortex. Very high quality appliance, meant to last generations. This one meant to last a couple of seasons. that's it. But again, well-preserved examples are likely to fetch a few more dollars than you would expect. Okay? All right, well, that's about it for now. Thank you all for watching. That Superior Electric logo, though, I love that. That's cool. That was one of the reasons I bought it. But let's take another look here. I know I said I'd end the video, but you know how that is. This, I just don't even, if you over tighten this just a little bit, it'll not only will it break off, but it'll shear off the rivet that holds the entire motor to the base. I mean, like, what the hell were they? Such a beautiful appliance otherwise. It doesn't move a lot of air, though. It really doesn't. I mean, it doesn't move much air, which is par for the course for these smaller, cheaper. Look at that. Let's see what kind of blade pitch it has. I didn't really pay much attention to that. Let's see what kind of blade pitch we got here. Really not much. There really isn't much. Now, that's a trick that fan makers will play when they're trying to sell a less expensive model. What they'll do, and this is happening like today, right now, if you go to buy a fan from any store ever, anywhere, you're going to get a fan that looks impressive. Big blades and nice heavy-duty metal construction. But when you look at the blades, that's what matters. If there's like, I don't know how many degrees that is of pitch. It's like, what, 10 degrees or less. I don't have a protractor. So anyway, if you have like a blade that looks almost flat like this, it should tell you everything you need to know, because it's telling you that the motor isn't really all that powerful. And to get away with a less powerful motor, you just angle the blades like that. So there isn't much pitch. There's not really moving much air. It'll still spin fast, but that doesn't mean anything. Now take a look at this. Okay, this is a 1950 GE Vortelex. Now, look at the size of this motor. It is enormous. Look at the blade pitch. That's what? How many degrees is that? Figure that out. This is a fan that's smaller, about the same size as that Superior, but look at these blades. These are meant to push air. I mean, that is what you want. You want a nice big ass motor, and you want lots of blade pitch. And look at how thick and heavy duty these blades are. Oh, and check it out. Now, this is when GE started cheapening out their fans, believe it or not. And it has not two, but one oil wick in the front. This is a fan that's meant to last and last and last. It's like the one on my fridge, only a little bit newer. What did I say? This was I think it's the 1950. The one on the fridge is a 49. But anyway, they got rid of the second oiler, and instead they just decided that there's enough oil in that grease that's in suspension that it'll keep the rear bearing lubricated, but the front bearing retained its oil wick. This is a fan that's meant to last, and it's meant to do what a fan does, and that is move air. And boy howdy, they do a good job of it. And just look at this, the way this neck is designed. I mean, it's just built to last. External gearbox, easy to service. Definitely not OSHA compliant, but that doesn't matter when you're, you know, I guess it does. But. And now, I mean, again, a stark example of good quality versus very poor quality. You've got very thin metal construction, I mean, just sheet metal. You've got, you know, plastic blades, which at the time could have been either cost savings, or I don't know what they were thinking with these plastic blades, whether it was more of a stylish choice or really mainly a cost-driven move. But you've got OSHA compliance, but you've got no quality here. And I still cannot get through my head what they were thinking with this design. I mean, I have no words. I have no words. And a completely disassemble resistant motor housing. You know, I get it. I get it. You know, this is an inexpensive appliance in comparison to its, you know, to its peers, but it's just negligence. Negligence is what I'm seeing here. Doesn't move a lot of air, but it looks cool. And that's why it's going to live the rest of its life on my desk at work, where I don't need a lot of airflow. I just need to have a little bit of a breeze, you know. Superior my ass.